everybody, welcome to Ellis Mowers. I appreciate y'all watching the channel. As always, we're going to do part 2 of this yard machines riding mower. In part 1, we took an engine filled with water and got it running. And it took a little bit of effort, and I wanted to just thank, I put this out on Instagram just for asking for advice, and I'm like, okay, it's one of two things, bad or warped head, or timing off internally, because I had checked everything else. A lot of y'all weighed in. Nick from Bellport, Mowers by Mitch, Kyle by the Creek, and Grant M. Ball. I appreciate all of y'all's comments, and we ended up having an issue with the head that was built up on the intake valve, and it pushed the valve seat in, and so I had a slight leak at the intake valve, and that was causing me issues. Well, I will be putting a head gasket on, but we're not going to be worrying about that. It runs good, just leaking oil because I just need to put another head gasket on. The purpose of this video is not that. I just wanted to give you a quick update, if you're coming to part 2, how we got here. I want to do a dedicated video on putting drive belts on one of these MTD mowers like this that has a little lever on the side, Bear Drive gear operated transmission on it. And there's I think it's a little bit harder than the ones that are newer, like Troy Built Ponies and the Troy Built Broncos, just because of the way that the guides and stuff are set up. The ones on these are really bad. I'll show them to you before we get into this. And we've got new ones, and I do want to mention, first things first about these things. Oem Drive Belts, guys. Oem belts. These are rotary, but Rotary's a reputable aftermarket company. They should work just fine. They're a little bit cheaper than the MTD Drive Belts. These things can get expensive if you're not careful. You can get these things upwards to like $50, $60. I think I got both of these for under $40. I think it was $30-some. And the two belts we're going to be using are a 754-0280 MTD belt. That one should be the front belt if I'm not mistaken, and the 0370 belt should be the rear one. So that's what we're going to do. If there's anything that I can preach on this video, is do not buy the aftermarket belts. I have tried it and they never work. Spend the money and get OEM or Stens / rotary belts, because you will regret cheapening out on these MTD drive belts. Trust me. We're going to make sure all the pulleys and stuff are correct. It is driving fine. The belts are just very chunks and stuff missing off of them. I'm not going to sell it like this, even though this is a $300 mower, maybe $350. I'm going to sell it with some good drive belts on it. My mission is to try and make things right around here and not sell halfway done stuff, and that's part of what we're doing. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you have any questions about this video, you can reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. Also have affiliate links down below for parts for your car and your mower if you need it. Get a little bit of a discount if you use those. Let's get started on this riding mower here. So here's the remnants of part 1. Like I said, I've still got to put a head gasket on. Mower shop's closed. I'm going to hit them up in the morning. They usually have Briggs & Stratton head gaskets in stock. Hopefully they have the one that I need. If not, I might venture and use one that's a little bit bigger displacement. Probably will work just fine. All the drive belts are situated under this. You have to take the battery off. You have to take these 2 screws off, this little knob off. This should have a knob right here, but I don't have it. I think I can source one. And that allows you to access the drive belts. Now, one other thing that we've got to do, I hope we don't have to remove the deck. We might be able to get by without having to do that. But on the bottom here, you have 2 pulleys. And I do have an oily mess, so I apologize for that. But you have 1 pulley. Oh, these are rusted too. I hope I can get them off, or at least get them lower. Worst case, I just bend back these tabs right here. But what you need to do is you need to drop this pulley enough so that you can get the drive belt, the deck belt off, number one, And number 2, get the drive belt pulley low enough so that you can get it down off of these tabs, because they tightly put these in on MTDs, and see what we can do about that. So let me go ahead and get those items off or dropped. This is like a 5/8 here that you have to take off. Again, you just need a couple of screws to take off this, and then obviously your hardware for your battery. Let me get to that point. I'll show you the drive belt setup, and then we'll put the drive belts on. All right, let's do it. All right, guys, let me show you what I've done so far. I've taken this panel off, and we're going to work on the top belt here. And what I have done is put the gear selector in the top gear and let the parking brake off. This allows this Drive pulley to come back some and release the tension on this belt in particular. And then I took my hand and pulled this pulley out to loosen the tension on this belt, and was able to roll it in between this pulley and the other pulley in the back there and get it out that way. Now my next step is I've got to take the battery out so that I can access the rear pulley. And then the other thing I've got to do, I don't know how well the light's going to show you down here, but I'm going to try to. So right beside this 3/4 inch bolt here, kind of where the light is, right there, is a, I believe it's a 7/16. And you got to take that off, or at least take it loose enough so that you can get that guide right there off, or loose so that you can get the belt around it. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'll take the battery out of the back here, and then we'll take it off of the rear pulley, and then we'll work on the front pulley, which right now I'm kind of waiting on that pulley right there to loosen up a little bit, so that I can get that belt off. Otherwise, I will have to be a little bit creative and bend some tabs that I don't want to bend and things like that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let me get the battery out. I'll show you what we need to do on the rear here, as well as loosening that 7/16 inch nut that I showed y'all down underneath the mower. All right, getting this guide to come off. 7/16 on the top, probably the open end of it, and then your 7/16 on the bottom. We got it now. Maybe we can leave that guide in. You can pull it out if you need to. Also, in order to get this guide out, put the park brake back on. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling with that bracket right there that has that bolt on it, which is, I guess, the tension bracket. So now I'm going to get the battery out, and we'll take off the back one, and that'll be it for the back, and then we have to take the front off. All right, folks, now we've gotten the battery out, and we've gotten the belt off the pulley. Our last hurdle when it comes to the back belt is that shifter. Now that shifter is held on by 2 bolts right there. Man, y'all can't see it. Let me grab the light. They're just 3/8 bolts right there. Unscrew them just with a socket. What you have to do, you have to unscrew them all the way, and then you have to take that shifter and pull it out, and then pull it up through the other side of the shifter right there to get it back around, because it kind of goes through the shifter, that belt, on this side. So that's the best way to do it, because I don't have room, and plus it's on the other side of the shifter. So kind of screwed there. So let me take those 3/8 bolts out, loose the shifter. Once I get the shifter loose, I'll get back on camera when we pull this belt out. Alright, so after I've taken that loose right there, that bracket for the shifter, I got it out of the way, and then I was able to go around this side between where that bracket was and the frame and pull the remainder of the belt out. Now this is why I'm replacing them, because we've got chunks missing out of it, and this thing ain't gonna last much longer. Even on a $300 mower, I'm not gonna let a belt like this ride. I used to would, but I don't do that anymore. That's just not, number one, not ethical. So that's going away. The new belt replaces it. Again, that's the shorter one of the two, so it should be this one. We'll check. Ugh. But that's the one we're going to replace. Let me make sure that's the right one real quick. Yeah, that's it. So a lot of times I just pull these things up just to see if they're the same length, and they are. So that's that one. Let me tell you why you get OEM belts, because these MTDs have a fatter inner V belt than most. So that's fatter on the inside. That's so that it goes on that Drive pulley right there. Now, if it doesn't fit that Drive pulley right, it ain't gonna pull. Trust me, I've tried. A regular V belt will not hold it. That goes in the trash again. So now, now we get to have fun. I'm gonna see if I can get this Drive pulley pulled up potentially, and it looks like I can. That's gonna help me get this belt off down here on the bottom, because those guide pins right there are locked in place. So I need some, what are those pliers? Those snap ring pliers. I gotta take the snap ring off, and when I take that snap ring off, I should be able to lift that pulley up and get that, take it off. Should be able to take this thing off actually. Now, I've got it still in park, which means that there's the least amount of travel between this and the crank pulley in park. So that's the way you want to address the front pulley. It should just be this Drive and the crank pulley, and then we should have this belt off as well. There may be a third pulley under there. I will let y'all know as soon as I get under there. I don't do these enough to know exactly, but enough to at least give y'all a tutorial as I do it. So let me grab the snap ring pliers, get that Drive pulley off, and we'll go from there. Alright, we're in the process of changing this front belt out. I've taken this snap ring off, as well as this plastic washer. What that allowed me to do is it allowed me to pull this drive pulley up enough to where I could get it off of the right side over here. And now I've put it through the front of the frame, and now I'm just kind of rolling it back and getting it out from the pulley. Kind of have to go back and forth. And so we've got it off of the Drive pulley now. Now we need to go under the mower. Man, this is some complicated mess for just some silly drive belts. Let's go underneath the mower and let me show you what we got going on. So, do we have a third pulley down here, or is it just these two? Let's see. Just those two. So all we got to do now is get it off of this front pulley around the engine. It looks like this thing has dropped enough for us to do that. So that's good, at least on that side. Just see if I can pull it off of these other two tabs, because there's those tabs that are in there, and you gotta get them out of that somehow. And once you do that, then you're good to go. And we can pull that belt out. We'll just take it. It looks like it goes over the brake pedal, goes over the what is that, a blading gauge rod or something like that. And we should be, are we gonna be good to go after that? I think we are. Hot dog. All right. So let me do that. I just got to take it off of these tabs. Ideally, you want to get this pulley. You got to get this pulley down, because we got to get this belt off here, or if we pull these guides up. But hopefully, we can get it off of the top here fairly easily. I'll work on that. I can't do this with one hand, guys. So that's the premise. You just need to take it off that front, and then get it out from around this belt crank pulley, and you're good to go. Alright guys, I was able to just roll it around those tabs. I don't know if I'll be that lucky getting it back in, although this belt is not severely worn. It's just got a bunch of cracks and stuff in it, as you can see. There is a little bit of tearing here and there, but nothing ridiculous. These belts are probably 15 years old. They don't look like the original belt, so it makes me think that somebody took care of this thing. Unless these are old MTD part numbers, which on this, MTD 754-0280A, so maybe it is the original drive belts. These thick MTD drive belts last longer than others, which is a good thing. So that's this belt. You can see that this has got a wide inner V as well. It's not a V, but you know, inner face, so to speak. So that front belt was relatively easy. So on this mower, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if these guides have been pulled back a little bit, but I basically just rolled it across these guides to get it past this, and then when I was up here, I just kind of pulled on it and it came off, and I'm going to try and roll it back on just the same way that I did. So we may not have to drop the pulley, and if I can get by without having to do that, that's going to be awesome, because that pulley is kind of frozen, and I don't really want to be messing with that thing. So let me start the process of putting it back together. I'll kind of show you how we get to this point, or in the process of getting it back together. But that is how you take them off. I hope that's relatively informative for y'all. Now we'll put it back together so this thing drives like a dream. And before I forget, 0280 is the front belt, 0370 is the back belt. All right, so that's what we're doing. Let me get the front belt on. I'll show you the finished product, explain how I did it, because we got tight quarters, and then we'll get the back on. All right, so we've got the front belt back on. I actually went ahead and fully removed the Drive pulley to do it. Fed this belt through, stuck it on the Drive pulley in the back, kind of finagled it a little bit, and then pushed it back down. Once I pushed it back down, I got it. There's still enough slack to where you can get it around this main belt pulley here, or this deck belt pulley. And then on this particular mower, I don't know if the tabs have been bent out or if that's just the way that it's designed, but I was able to just kind of roll the engine over and roll the belt onto the drive pulley underneath. So hopefully it goes that easy for y'all. The front one's not too bad once you get the back one off. So now let's get the back one on and see if I can figure out how to do this the best way possible. What you have to do is you have to get it back underneath. I don't know where my flashlight went, but I will show you all once I do. There it is. You got to get it back underneath the this mechanism for the shifter, and then just get it around that back pulley, come around, get it on the Drive pulley. Once you do that, you can put your shifter back on. And then once you put your shifter back on, you can put it on that tension pulley there, and we should be good to go. Let me go ahead and take care of that. I will put the belt on. I'll explain how I did it, and then we should have a driving mower again after I put a head gasket on tomorrow morning. Alright guys, I have seen worse on these and other mowers, but for this one, make sure you put your belt in between the shifter. Take one side of the belt and put it underneath this bracket right here. So you can just twist that out. What you're going to do is take that belt. It's going to be like this. You'll take that belt, put it underneath. We'll go ahead and feed it on our pulley here after we put it in 7th gear, or put it in, after we put it in gear. But at this point, you can go ahead and put your shifter back together right there, and screw that back in. Like I said, we'll put this in 7th gear. And we've already stuck that belt on the front Drive pulley right there. We will stick this on the back pulley, and then we'll come over here, and here's the tricky part. If we can pull on this spring tension pulley enough to get it in, then all I gotta do is put some guides on this thing and we're done. So let's see if I can do that. get around on this back pulley and try and wedge it. Oh, so close. You can do it, little buddy. It wants to. Come on, buddy. Let's do it. So close. All right, stay. All right. I'll try and at least show you what I'm trying to do here. I don't know how I can show it to y'all very well, but come on, buddy. There we go. There we go. All right, we're on. Awesome. Hope my head won't in the way. So those drive belts are on. I just got to put that guide back on, put those screws back in, and we're ready to rock and roll. Hope y'all found that informative. Obviously, the V's go on the inside of the VariDrive pulley, and inside of the crank pulley, inside of the big pulley. The only place that the V goes on the outside is for this that tension pulley right there. All right. Let me button some things up, and I'll rejoin y'all when I get this thing ready to drive. All right. Hopefully y'all got what I was doing, picking up what I was putting down right there, and I'll show y'all the finished product for those who are vested. If not, I appreciate y'all watching for the drive belts. All right, guys. One thing, if you did watch this for the drive belts, don't forget to put that VariDrive guide back on, the one that fits through the frame, and you have to use that 7/16 inch wrench to get it. Just put a wrench on top, ratchet on bottom, screw it back on, you're good to go. I just finished it. One other tip, with the way that you have the VariDrive pulley and whatnot, moving it up and down, you do kind of have to jolt it back to life whenever you have whenever you put the drive belts on. And the way that you do that is you put it in like 4th, 5th, or 6th. That way it grabs the VariDrive pulley, and as soon as you do that, as long as your pulley is good, it'll lock in, and it'll take off originally, but then you get all your gears back because you got everything back in sync. That's the way that I do it. It worked out pretty well. I'm going to see if I can find a knob for this shifter. But apart from that, you can see that I have some grass residue on it. This mower is done. For those who are interested and watched part 1 about the whole had a bunch of water in it and all that good stuff, I put a head on it, and at the end of part 1, I left y'all hanging with the head gasket. I put a new head gasket on it. It's working great, because the old head gasket was bad. One thing about it is this is like a 28N707, I think, or a 28. Yeah, this is a 28N707. I had a 31,000 series Briggs head. That's what I put on here. This is like a 317-707. It works just fine. I don't know if the 33,000 ones do, but I did not have another 28,000 Briggs. The only thing is, if you put this on one of these mowers with this type of air shroud on it, the 31,000 series head is physically bigger when it comes to the cooling fins. So you have a little bit of a tight fitment here, and this tin will not slide back up into the fins. You can swap the tin out, but that's pretty difficult because you're talking about trying to get your fingers and stuff under there. This works just fine. It's like 95 degrees today. I just cut grass with this for about 20 minutes or so. Did not see any overheating smoke or anything like that. One thing for transparency that I did do, and I don't know how I did it because I didn't impact these things on that tight and I didn't cross thread them, is one of my bolts, the one on the bottom right for the head. I don't think I can show it to you very well. Ended up breaking off whenever I was trying to torque it. I think it was, these things are supposed to be 15. I was trying to go to about 18. It would never torque, and then it got to the point where it just broke off, and I'm like, oh heck, what in the world now? So I was like, I hope it doesn't leak oil. Luckily, it's holding just fine. That oil residue is from where the old head gasket was, and I don't see any really leaks anywhere else. It didn't smoke on me the whole time. It did one little puff of smoke, and I think it was just maybe an oil residual just burning off of the exhaust. But man, I tell you what, this thing, the one thing that is probably not going to get done, just because this deck is the most complicated deck in the world, is that this arm is a little bit out of adjustment. So in order to start it, you have to pull the arm back and then crank with the key. And then when I rest the arm, it does try to spin the blades just a little bit, but it doesn't. It's just barely spinning them. It is not worth my time and effort to try and get that little thing fixed on it. I think for what I'm going to ask for this mower, probably like $350, maybe $375. I think these guys, whoever buys it, I think could live with pulling this up to start it, and then if they don't want the blades to run, just pulling it up. Because it's not worth trying to bend things and finagle things and make things worse. Deck works great, cuts really well actually. I think I need to put an air in this tire, maybe a little bit of ATF. They're not too bad though. I'm gonna list this thing and get this thing out of here. Let's recap in the when we wrap this video up as to what all we did on this thing to get it going and to troubleshoot. And it's a long list. And I'll kind of give y'all a breakdown of how much I actually spent on this mower to get going, to where it'll run reliably and properly, so that I feel comfortable selling it to somebody who probably doesn't have a big budget and just wants something cheap to ride around with. Also, one other thing I wanted to show y'all know these hoods break on these all the time right there at the bottom. Well, this one's no different. Even though this mower appears to have been taken pretty decent care of over its lifetime, for it to be a 20-year-old MTD Yard machines, whoever had it decided we're going to put little L brackets and drill into the plastic so that it secures the front of the hood on. That's pretty ingenious. So I just added a couple of bolts there and then mounted the hood back on this side right here, and man, it works great. Tell you what, let's go on a little test drive here, and then we'll wrap this video up, because I haven't done a full proper test drive since I have fully fixed this for y'all. Notice how much easier it is to start than it was in part 1 as well. And it is a warm start too. So as you can see, runs, cuts, drives like it should. Doesn't have crumbly, cracked drive belts, and it's got a bunch of good parts. So let's wrap this video up. Alright guys, so that is the end of this video. Again, we did 2 parts to this because the second part I wanted here to do a dedicated video on replacing the drive belts. And I hope that helped y'all out if you were looking for that type of video. And if you saw how to replace the drive belts and stuck with me to the end of the video, I really do appreciate it as well. Feel free to consider subscribing if you just like to see me fix lawnmowers in general, or see lawnmowers getting fixed in general. I do push mowers, riding mowers, everything with a small engine, the occasional 2-cycle, the occasional golf cart, depending on what comes in. So this is done. I'm going to put it on there for about I'll probably list it for $375. Cost breakdown as to what I've got in this. Funny thing is, as soon as I finish cutting the yard, the guy that gave this mower to me came up, and he has a Husqvarna push mower that I need to, that has a terrible self-propel issue with grass and whatnot, but that's beside the point. I was like, I was just gonna message you and tell you that I got it going. Told you what all it needed. So let me tell you all what all it needed. So when we got it, it had water in the engine, full of water, more water than oil. We drained all that out. We had to take the head off, clean it all out. We never had to take the sump off or anything like that. We were able to get it cleared out without taking the sump off, which is good. Cleaned inside the cylinder head, tried to do all that, and long story short, we found out that the head was bad. The intake valve had a bunch of buildup in it and was not sealing properly, which caused what seemed to be a running rich issue. And it would not start with the air filter on to save its life. So after I figured that out, we swapped the head around, ended up putting a new head gasket on it, obviously, after I found out that the head was going to work out okay on it, and that got the running issue solved. So we really saved this engine, and I had my doubts whenever we started. We put brand new blades on it because the old blades were shot. We found those at Walmart for about $26, $27, which is about as cheap as you're going to find blades, period, online. Drive belts, OEM drive belts, guys. That's the only way to do these MTDs. Otherwise, they are not going to drive like they are supposed to, all right? So we did rotary drive belts. Rotary is a reputable aftermarket company, and they do OEM spec. So you can do Stens, rotary, or MTD, and you'll be just fine. We did both of them because both of them were cracked pretty bad, although it drove just fine. I'm not going to roll out a mower with a drive belt that looked like that. What else have we done? That's in essence, that's about it. It was a little bit time consuming, but we got it done. We put ATF in the front tires, and those things have been holding fine for like 3 weeks now. So because I went on vacation in between the span of filming this video and troubleshooting and figuring this stuff out. So deck's in good shape, deck belt's good enough, and we put a starter solenoid in it. I forgot about that. We had to put a starter solenoid in it, but I bought those in bulk for like $8 a piece online a few months ago, so that wasn't a big expense. All in all, I think we ended up having about, I'll have to look it up, but I think we were about $100 in it. 30 for the belts, about 25 for all the gaskets, and I think that's about it, because I used a battery in here, a solenoid. We may even have less than that into it. We may even have only about 75 or 80. I'm not completely sure. We definitely have less than 100. I'll make a couple hundred off of it. It took me a lot of time to get this thing fixed. However, you know, people aren't going out. I would rather somebody be able to pay cash for a lawnmower than to say go to a place like Aaron's or Rent-A-Center and pay out the wazoo for a new mower and make payments on it when they can get enough cash to buy something like this. So that's one of the reasons why I do these cheaper mowers, because they can get a fully serviced mower that should last them a pretty decent while, and get it for relatively cheap. I make a little bit of money, they get a good deal, and everybody wins, I believe. This thing did really well. I'm about to list it, and I appreciate y'all watching this two-part series. And we've got a lot more riders on the channel. I told y'all the riders are coming. Riders on riders. Thank y'all again. Thanks for all the support for getting me over 5,000 subscribers. And it's because of people like y'all that help keep me motivated to do this as well. So again, if you have any questions about this video, feel free to reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. I'll see y'all on the next video. Take care.